Hello and welcome to For the Love of Wisdom, a YouTube channel on philosophy, free thought, and critical thinking. In this video we're going to be looking at the question, must we presuppose God to account for existence? This video is a response to one put out by My True Power 2 called, Is There Real Proof That God Exists? In his video he has laid out 8 different arguments for the existence of God. I have addressed his first argument in a different video, and I'll be addressing his second argument in this video, and I plan to address his other arguments in future videos. Let's hear how he puts this argument.
Proof 2. The Leibnizian Argument from Contingency. Why is there something instead of nothing? God explains this, and no other credible explanation does.
So he's posing the question, why is there something rather than nothing? And the answer he gives is, there is something because of God, that only God can explain existence and nothing else can. But if God exists, God is something. And we may ask, why is there God rather than nothing? In fact, this poses an even greater mystery. God is not any mere something. God is an intelligent, omnipotent, volitional being. The chances of such a being popping into existence are infinitesimal. Imagine the odds of a tornado going through a junkyard and producing a Boeing 747. The odds of a being with the power to make this happen just popping into existence are even less. Complexity does not appear out of the blue. The first musicians didn't play in orchestras. The first musical instruments were not electronic synthesizers. The first computers were manually operated CPUs useful only for arithmetic. My first computer had only 1/millionth the RAM of my present computer, 8 kilobytes versus 8 gigabytes, and it could not be used for word processing, telecommunicating, listening to recorded music, or watching video, all things I can use my present computer for. You began life as a single cell that gradually developed into a conscious and intelligent human being. The DNA that provided the instructions for building you is the product of billions of years of evolution by natural selection. Superpowered mutants like the X-Men have never suddenly appeared because such incredible complexity never appears without a long history of ancestral forms. We can easily account for complexity without God. It is just a matter of time and natural evolutionary processes. But when we account for existence by presupposing a divine creator, the problem of complexity becomes insoluble. God cannot possess power, morality, or intelligence without complexity. And that complexity has no explanation if God is to be the explanation for existence. Beyond that, you just can't explain existence with the existence of anything, not even God. That comes down to explaining existence with existence, which is the very thing you are trying to explain. That is like trying to define a word in terms of itself. Whatever the explanation for existence is, it must lie outside existence. Now, if God's existence were necessary, the necessity of God's existence could account for existence. But short of any compelling reason for believing that God's existence is necessary, the simpler explanation is that existence is necessary. The modal form of the ontological argument tries to prove that God's existence is necessary, but that's a different argument than this one, and it will be the subject of a different video. If another argument can prove the necessity of God's existence, this argument will add nothing to it. If no argument can prove the necessity of God's existence, this argument has no force. Either way, this argument fails to prove the existence of God. Ultimately, this argument is circular. It cannot prove God's existence without first assuming the necessity of God's existence, which it fails to establish.